I went on the ambulance to the hospital. I was then transferred to Liverpool to the Walton Centre, to the neurological centre there, and I was operated on straight away because I think some of the MRI scans were inconclusive, or I can't remember what was going on. But I remember at that point then, before I got in the ambulance to go to Liverpool, that the blood was rushing to my head and I had a headache at that point. I remember my mum coming to try to see me to find out what was going on. I remember shouting, and it was a horrible memory. But anyway, I was then in the ambulance on the way, and I think they put me under, I don't know, I wasn't awake anyway. And I went on the ambulance, in the ambulance all the way to Liverpool, operated on straight away. I then stayed in the Walton Centre for about 3 weeks after. This was in 2004, so I was 17 at the time, in November, about a month before Christmas. And I don't remember a lot of it in the first couple of weeks, I think, because I was in intensive care, and I remember waking up from the drugs I was on and whatnot, and I don't think I was a very, very positive person at that time. And I remember my parents saying that, you know, I wasn't very responsive in a way. It wasn't me, you know, I was shouting and all that sort of thing, just getting over what had happened, I think. And then eventually, after the 3 weeks, I had a couple of eye tests before I came out of there, and they'd found that in the top right hand corner out of each eye, I'd lost 25% of my eyesight in terms of my vision. So still today, I have a blind spot in the top right hand quarter of each eye, actually. So it's 25% of each eye. And I then left there, and then I went back to a local hospital for a week. And I came out of hospital exactly a month after I went in, so that was good, considering what had happened, and considering the extent of the bleed, and considering that I was operated on under 12 hours, under 8 hours, I think, from when I'd actually collapsed, which was very important because it was a big bleed in the left-hand side of my head here. So they went in this side and removed a cluster of blood vessels, also known as an AVM. And because it was on the left-hand side, it affected my speech and my short-term memory. So I remember actually when I was in hospital, my parents said that I was convinced that I was the Prime Minister, but I'm not. I'm not now, and I don't think I ever will be. But anyway, so it affected my speech and my language, and I had speech and language therapy for a good couple of months after I had come out of hospital, which improved significantly and quickly in the space of 3 to 6 months after I came out. I then started sixth form again. I went back to college under 12 months after I'd first come out, which was great. And I wanted to get back into things because I was very frustrated at the time. I didn't want to feel like anything had taken over me, and I was put in a different position to what I was in before it happened. And I think I was very frustrated that it now put me in a position where I had to adapt. I had to accept that things had changed, and I needed to get on with my life in a different way. And I think that was quite difficult for me to accept at the time, and it took me a good couple of years to even accept that. But anyway, I went back to sixth form. I did a couple of A-levels. I finished that after 2 years. I then started working for a year. I then started uni, and everything sort of seemed to happen at the right time. I remember after I finished sixth form, and luckily enough at what I wanted to do at the time, there was a vacancy for a job related to what I wanted to do in the construction industry, and it was available at this sort of time, exactly the right time, and it felt as if things were starting to happen, and things were looking up for me. And I think it also felt that I was trying to push myself, and I wanted better, and I wanted to try to do things which in the first instance didn't seem possible, and sometimes people didn't think that it was going to be possible for me, but I proved myself wrong as well as other people. It was important for me to believe in myself that I was able to do these sorts of things, go back to sixth form and get along with life, really. So after I got this job which was related to the job I wanted to do ultimately at university. Finished that after the year, and just before I started university, I then needed to go back in again because they found another small aneurysm to the rear of my head, which I had a choice. I had two choices. Do I want it to be an invasive procedure where they go in and remove it, or do I have radiotherapy? But I will not find out straight away whether it had been removed or not. But it'd be a couple of years after that, and I didn't want to wait. I wanted this, whatever had happened to me over a space of 4 years, to leave so I could get on with things. So I decided, I went with the option for them to remove the aneurysm. So I had it removed, and then I think I was out of action for a couple of weeks. I didn't want it to. I think I also remember about within 2 hours after me having surgery, I wanted to have a shower straight away. I didn't want it to take over my life again like it did before, and I wanted to just move on and to do what I wanted to do and not feel as if I was controlled by something else. So I then started university, and it was great. I did a couple of years there. I got a degree, which was fantastic. I got great support from the university, and I felt that really good. So I'd achieved again. I did my A-levels, I did another course, BTEC course, then did a degree, which was great. And after that, I then started work, because the course that I was in at university allowed me to have a couple of placements. So I worked after an academic year for a couple of weeks, and then after the second year I did a full year out in London, worked at the Heathrow Airport, which was great. Went back to uni, finished the final year, and then after finishing that and graduating, I started back at the airport, which was great again, and I'm still there now until our project finishes. So after everything that had happened nearly 10 years ago, I'd not really had any time to try to comprehend what position I'm in now, and in comparison to what position I was in 9 years ago, because I've been so busy. But I did really want to do something which would allow me to feel as if I was giving back something, or feel as if I was able to help people in a similar situation to what I was in 9 years ago. And the idea came about after thinking that when I came out of hospital the first time, I wasn't able to speak to anybody necessarily that had been in a similar situation, in terms of being able to relate just what I had to experience, in terms of the fact I needed to do speech and language therapy again. I needed to try to learn to read again properly and to speak coherently. And I think it was difficult for me to do that straight away. And I think if I'd had someone to speak to in a similar situation, it would have made such a difference. And that's really what this project is about, and the website, Little Steps to Great Strides, because after the little steps you can make at the start and the determination to move forward, in the end, sometimes and most of the time there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you can achieve things even though they'll feel small. These small things make out to be big things in the end, and I think having that determination and that drive to want to succeed, however small the goal is, I think is really important. And if other people can be there to be on a website and a little story you can see, and you can appreciate and accept that someone else is in a similar situation, I think it really does help you in comparison to, say, a professional that hasn't experienced such a thing. So that was the real drive for the website. And obviously I couldn't have done it on myself. Luckily, when I started back at the airport, Becky came in one of the days to collect a cheque for one of the stroke charities, and luckily enough I was in the right place at the right time, and we met. We didn't really get to know each other straight away, but we swapped information in terms of numbers, web addresses, or whatever, email addresses, and we then got talking, and it really sort of spanned from there. We went on a couple of dates, and then here we are now living together in this flat. It's all happened really quite quickly, but it feels right. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking now because I think you've heard enough, and thanks very much for listening and hearing my side of the story, and I really hope that people get the benefit out of our website, because we're trying to do a good thing here for people. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. I'll speak to you soon.